So when he speaks of what they did as the printing house, he says he printed this, he printed that, the paper was profitable for him, even though Meredith was his partner and had provided all the capital. So he was soon, his friends lamented his connection with Meredith, but, says Ben, I was to make the best of it. Our first papers made quite a different appearance from any before in the province, a better type and better printed. But some remarks of my writing on the dispute then going on between Governor Burner and the Massachusetts Assembly struck the principal people, occasioned the paper and the manager of it to be much talked of, and in a few weeks brought them all to be our subscribers. So there's a big scandal, and he all of a sudden got a bunch of subscribers just because they wanted to follow this news. Their example was followed by many, and our numbers went on growing continually. So going down a bit now, another difficulty came upon me which I had never the least reason to expect. Mr. Meredith's father, who was to have paid for our printing house, was able to advance only £100 currency, and 100 more were due to the merchant, who grew impatient and sued us all. They actually got sued. We gave bail, but saw that if the money could not be raised in time, the suit must soon come to a judgment and execution, and our hopeful prospects must with us be ruined, as the press and letters must be sold for payment, perhaps at half price. In this distress, two true friends, whose kindness I have never forgotten nor shall ever forget while I can remember anything, came to me separately, unknown to each other, and without any application from me, they offered each of them to advance me all the money that should be necessary. But they did not like my continuing the partnership with Meredith. They said, you need £100? £100? Fine. Get out of business with Meredith. I'll give you the £100 and you'll have your business. Meredith, they said, was often seen drunk in the streets, playing at low games, in alehouses, much to our discredit. So he can't dissolve the partnership because he actually owes something to Meredith for getting it all set up, and something to Meredith's father for being willing to front that money to begin with. So he can't just dissolve the partnership up out of the middle of nowhere. So Ben talks to him one day. He says, I said to my partner, perhaps your father is dissatisfied at the part that you've undertaken in this affair of ours, and is unwilling to advance you and me what he would for you. So in other words, maybe your father just doesn't want to pay the money because he doesn't want to pay it to both of us. If that is the case, tell me, and I will resign the whole to you and go about my business. Meredith says, no, that's not the case at all. But since you bring it up, let's talk about this. If you take the debts of the company upon you, return to my father the £100 he has advanced, pay my little personal debts, and give me £30 and a new saddle, you got all those? I will relinquish the partnership and leave the whole in your hands. Because he says he wants to go to North Carolina and go back to being a farmer, which is what he was trained in. He just liked Ben so much. He said to Ben when they met in England, he's like, we'll get my dad to set up a printing house for us. But turns out printing wasn't his thing. I gave him what he demanded, and he soon went to Carolina. And he says the next year he sent a couple long letters to Ben detailing the soil, the climate, the husbandry, etc. of the country, and Ben printed them. And the people got much satisfaction out of knowing more little geographic and trivia information about Carolina. About this time, there was a cry among the people for more paper money, only £15,000 being extant in the province. The wealthy inhabitants opposed any addition, being against all paper currency, from the apprehension that it would depreciate, as it had done in New England, to the injury of all creditors. We had discussed this point in our junto, where I was on the side of an addition, being persuaded that the first small sum, struck in 1723, had done much good by increasing trade, employment, and number of inhabitants in the province. Our debates possessed me so fully of the subject that I wrote and printed an anonymous pamphlet titled the nature and necessity of paper currency. Now, they did have to have some form of currency. They were on a bit of a barter economy. And specie was not readily available to them. So perhaps paper was in some ways useful at the time. I just can't wrap my head around it, though. I can't believe it. I think that they should have just had a specie currency. There shouldn't have been government currency at all. The government shouldn't have anything to do with it. That's what I think. And it appears to me that Ben was on the side of paper currency because he was a printer. That was one of the reasons. And he may very well have been totally convinced and believed that it was all to the good to print paper money and to have some money about for the people to use. He probably really did believe it in his soul. And he was a printer. Now, I don't believe that that's what guided him to support paper currency, but perhaps it was a bit of a factor. This pamphlet was well received by the common people in general, but the rich men disliked it, for it increased and strengthened the clamor for more currency, and they happened to have no writers among them that were able to answer it. Their opposition slackened, and the point was carried by a majority in the House. My friends there, who considered I had been of some service, thought fit to reward me by employing me in printing the money. A very profitable job and a great help to me. Now, they liked this policy so much that the printed sum went up and up and up and up and up. They kept printing, and it grew soon to 50,000 pounds. And in 1739, 80,000 pounds. Trade, building, and all inhabitants all the while increasing.